Alright, I want to start off today's video by asking you guys a question. If you had only $100 and you had to buy something to prevent a catastrophic failure on your E36, what would you buy? Is there anything you even can buy for under $100 that could prevent a catastrophic failure on one of these cars? Well, I think I found a couple of items that you could buy, and I want to talk to you guys about it. Let's get into it. Alright, so if you're into E36s at all, maybe you've even owned some in the past, and maybe somehow you've been living under a rock this entire time, there's quite a few things that can cause catastrophic failures on these cars and ultimately lead them to be out of commission. And I'm not really going to address any of them today besides what today's video is specifically about, and that's failing rear shock towers. Now, if you're unaware, these cars are prone to having failing shock towers, whether it be the front strut towers or the rear shock towers, as well as subframe mounts, but we're not getting into those. What we're talking about today is rear strut towers failing, and thankfully they haven't failed yet on mine. In fact, I have something pretty cool to show you guys later in the video about what I found when I test fitted this strut brace that I bought. But the idea being is, at least in my case, is of all of the things that I have the capability of doing on all of my cars, because I'm a professional mechanic, what I don't have the ability to do or even skill to do is fabricate parts. I don't have the ability to weld in anything. I don't have the ability to fix a failed strut or shock tower if they fail. And so the idea being, if I can prevent it from happening in the first place, then I won't ever have to deal with it at all. And so what I did to hopefully prevent that from ever happening is purchase from Garagistic. They're currently having a sale on a bunch of parts at the time of this video. I picked up a rear strut brace and shock tower reinforcement plates. And so I'm going to show you guys what I bought, the install of putting them in the car, and talk about the benefits of doing that on top of just hopefully peace of mind and not having to ever deal with a failed rear shock tower. So with that, let me show you what I bought and let's get into it. Alright, so here we have an unpainted Garagistic rear strut brace, as well as two unpainted Garagistic rear shock tower reinforcement plates. Now, you can weld these in. According to their website, you have the ability to weld these in if you want to, but if you have the inability to, you can also just mount these on top of the shock tower itself. Obviously, you just take the nuts out that secure the shock to the car, put this on over the threads, and then torque the nuts back down to spec. What I'm going to do in my case is obviously install those as well as the rear strut brace. And in case you're wondering, like I was wondering, I did call Garagistic. I spoke to them and asked them if you're able to use both together and have enough threads on the shock itself to properly torque down and use. And they assured me that you can do that. I think as a small preventative measure, I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads, on the shock threads, and then obviously torque everything down to spec. Now, I want to mock this up in the car and show you guys what it looks like before we get it all painted and kind of talk about the purpose of everything. And while we're in there, I want to show you guys the cool thing that I found the first time I mocked this stuff up, and then we'll take it all back out, we'll get it painted, and then we'll install it for the final time. So with that, let's mock this stuff up into the car. Here we go. Alright, the strut bar and the reinforcement plates are installed and everything is torqued properly. This is the cool thing I wanted to show you guys that I keep bringing up throughout the video, but if you look on this side, there's already a pretty thick piece of metal that's been welded in here, versus on this side, which appears to be OEM, which means that either this side had a failure and this is how they fixed it, or it was failing and this is how they prevented it from getting any worse. But regardless, this is 100% the proper way to do this if you really want to bulletproof this part of the car and not worry about it ever failing. But I do think that between the reinforcement plate and the strut bar, now having the load being distributed across all of that versus just where the nuts held the shock to the car, hopefully I'll have peace of mind and not ever have to worry about that happening to this side, because like I said, the force was, you know, for this shock for this side was distributed just where the nuts were making contact with the shock tower, but now the whole load is being distributed across the reinforcement plate and where this obviously mounts to that. So Not only that, but there's the added benefit, hopefully, of this strut bar kind of taking some of the body roll away from the rear of the car now that the load is being distributed from side to side. So hopefully there's that added benefit too. And one thing I did want to note is if you look on this side at the nut and then the threads in the middle versus this side, there's clearly more thread sticking out on this side than on this side. So I have a feeling because there's this huge metal plate welded in here that I won't need the reinforcement plate on this side. I'll probably just have the strut bar installed here and then both obviously on this side. So anyways, I'm gonna take this out, get it painted, and then we'll, you know, throw it back in and put all the trunk lining back in and call this job done. All right, it's day 2. Yesterday I painted the strut bar and the reinforcement plate that I'm gonna use in the car. I just went with a matte black. I didn't think I needed anything really loud. No one's really gonna see this back there, so I didn't need to do like red or yellow or something. But it also ended up working out because that plate that's welded into the passenger side rear shock tower that I showed you also happens to be black, so it just worked out. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the car and put the trunk lining back in, and then maybe we'll even take it for a test drive and see if the car feels any stiffer. There's not really any like fun, exciting roads around where I'm at, like super local, so we'll see. But I'm gonna get everything installed and then we'll kind of show you what it looks like all done up with the trunk put back together, and then we'll take the car out for a test drive. All right, so unfortunately everything took a little longer to install than I anticipated. I, for some reason, completely forgot that you cannot install the strut bar on these cars without either not putting the trunk lining back in or cutting a hole in the trunk lining to make room for it. So that's what I did. I'm kind of trying to keep the OEM plus thing, so I want the trunk liner in there. I want the trunk to look clean. Maybe I'll get rid of it down the road, but that's what I was doing. I had to take all that out, cut the holes, and then make sure everything fit, and then torque everything down. But let me show you what it looks like installed in the car and talk a little bit about, you know, what's going on and what will be coming in the future with it. So here it is. I think it looks good. I think the black was the right call. Nothing in here is like a loud color, and I think this is like pretty subtle. Obviously these holes aren't perfect, but you know, they work for me. And, you know, like I said, no one's really going to be in here seeing this anyway. So, you know, whenever I open the trunk and having the trunk lining, it'll look how I want it to look. So no complaints there. Yeah, man, this thing looks really good. It feels really stiff. I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think the strut tower reinforcement plate combined with this rear strut bar, I do think I'll have a little bit more peace of mind and not have to worry about this side ever giving out on me. If it ever does, I will address it, obviously, but hopefully with those, I won't have to worry as much about it. So it was a worthwhile purchase to me. Unfortunately, I'm not able to give you guys a driving impression at all in this video. Like I said, I kind of ran out of time and I want to edit this video tonight and get it out tomorrow, and it's already pretty late, so I'll have to do that in another video. Maybe that'll come when I eventually get coilovers, because that's on the list. I've been looking for a while. If you guys have any recommendations, please let me know. But yeah, man, super stoked. I think a worthwhile upgrade for less than $100. I think even if it doesn't do a whole lot, I think it's better for 75 bucks than nothing at all. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll see. Well, you know, we'll have to see if it stands the test of time. But anyways, if you stuck around to the end, I appreciate you checking it out. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.